Ladies and gentlemen, oh my God. It's going and going and going and going, and here to help me talk about professional wrestling on the worst podcast ever. We're late as fuck. He's the pump to my handle slam, the rock to my bottom, and the Karen to my angle. Ladies and gentlemen, from Nashville, Tennessee, he's scratching his armpit. He's ready to go. He's your friend, and he's mine. Ladies and gentlemen, Lee.
How do you get better at these intros every week?
I think about it all day, every day. Just like I think about how crazy professional wrestling is all day, every day. We had probably one of the coolest weeks in professional wrestling. And I have awoken the sleeping monster known as Kevin. For those of you that don't know, I have two dogs, just like Lee has two dogs. And Kevin last night, Norman had this little like stomach bug for like a day and a half. He's got the roles have switched. Kevin used to have the titanium stomach. She could eat whatever the hell she wanted to.
Yeah.
And it was fine. But something happened to where she now is just, it's awful. We were out every hour on the hour last night.
Amazing.
Yeah. But well, welcome to Trolling the Territory. This is a wrestling podcast because we needed another one. Where two industry professionals, myself, commercial bass player, credits that make no sense to me as a white guy from West Virginia in hip hop, and probably one of the better producers in Nashville, Tennessee, in Lee Howson, a phenomenal singer, phenomenal pianist, lineage galore. Where we talk about the entertainment side of professional wrestling. And as lifelong fans, we try to make sense of what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, that's very accurate.
It is very accurate. We are jaded prolapse fans. Here's a little tidbit of news here for you. You saw we're going to jump right into it. You saw the Mick Foley thing.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I can't say that I disagree. And for those of you that may not have seen this, we're going to jump straight into news, insert the bell ringing, bing, bing, bing. Mick Foley had comments about the future and WWE. He basically called it, "We've got a problem." And I'm gonna read. I tried my best to get this surmised so that if you haven't seen this, you didn't watch the video, I'm just going to read it to you. So Mick posts on Twitter, "Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and I'd like to title this video, WWE, We've Got a Problem. Because I think you do. And that problem is that WWE is no longer the place for talent to aspire to. Part of it is because AEW is doing a great job of attracting great talent, proven talent, building other talent, creating storylines. But part of it is a problem of your own making. I think younger talent see the way that developmental characters are cut or left by the wayside, or in the case of Karrion Kross, greatly watered down and even made a joke of when they debut on the main roster. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If I was an aspiring talent now, a big league talent with a major decision to make, I'm not sure that I would trust WWE Creative to do the right thing with my career. You guys did wonders for me back in the day. That was a different time and a different place. If it was today, I'm not sure I would trust the powers that be with my career in their hands. And until that changes, WWE, we've got a problem." Yeah. Fuck, I read that really good. Yeah. I've got a headache with zero sleep. What do you make of that? I mean, obviously, we can agree that he's right.
Yeah. Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is I think it's all WWE's fault. And I've said this before. The entire concept of AEW is WWE's fault. This is not the days of other territories. AEW isn't another territory. AEW and for all of its good parts now, AEW is a company owned by a guy that knows nothing about wrestling and just wants everybody to have a good time and love each other and allows wrestlers to do what they want. In what other industry is that appealing?
Yeah.
I can't think of one where everyone's just allowed to do whatever they want without any type of and just throw stuff at the wall.
Right.
So this is 100% on WWE. They have done this to themselves. And so now you have wrestlers coming up in, whether it's on the independents or just aspiring to get into the industry,
Right.
saying, where do I go? Do I go what used to be the standard of like perfection in the wrestling business that's turned into I don't really know anymore, it's just entertainment? Or
Right.
do I go somewhere that I can do whatever I want?
Right.
Of course someone's going to say that, you know, for better or for worse. So
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
I agree with him.
I think that's a great point. To me, I'm honestly more worried that WWE is just let's get through week to week. They're not necessarily worried about building big stars anymore. I can't see that. Then again, to be completely transparent, for the last 2 weeks, things have been so crazy and hectic. The only thing that I've watched is AEW because of the upcoming pay-per-view. I've had way more fun watching AEW because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And even in the media scrum, Daniel Bryan mentioned that. And Daniel Bryan and CM Punk both mentioned that a huge turning point for them joining AEW was how AEW handled Brody Lee's passing. And it was just it was something that doesn't really happen that often in professional wrestling, that you just stop what you're doing and you focus on healing and celebrating somebody's life.
Yeah.
Somebody like Brody Lee, who, and not only that, they kept a lot of that whole thing very private. And Punk and Bryan Danielson both were just like, man, that was something else. Like you don't really see that happening that much, and you haven't seen that happen very much. But I personally, I feel like WWE with Bruce Pritchard, Nick Khan, Johnny Ace, Vince, unfortunately, I saw a report that he may have COVID.
What?
That's why he hasn't apparently been at TV that much, is because he was showing symptoms of having COVID.
I didn't see that at all. No, I totally missed that.
Yeah, it was something that I don't know if it was Meltzer said something about it, but I saw it yesterday evening that the reason why he hasn't been at TV was because he had symptoms of COVID. They didn't say that he had it.
Huh.
But regardless, I think Foley is 100% accurate.
Yeah,
it's way more fun, regardless of if it's not your brand or flavor of ice cream. Man, WWE or AEW has been a whole heck of a lot of fun. We'll see what happens this coming, tonight. God, we got a whole new chapter being started for Dynamite. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I am just over the moon about the possibilities. What say you?
It's funny. I feel like every week it feels like a new chapter, because someone debuts really every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think they're in a period of discovery, even after how many this is a couple years now they've been on there, right? They're still discovering themselves. So like I'm really, really hard on the company, just because the owner wants to be everyone's friend, and I think he's a massive dork. And I think that he's has a really bad look about him. He sounds bad.
You're going after the guy like okay, you want to be everybody's friend.
He should stay off TV. Like it's bad. Like
has
is
he
a
been
bad
on
look
TV?
for him. Yes, absolutely he has.
He came out to hand Sammy Guevara a piece of paper and a clipboard to give to the Kmart version of Juventud Guerrero from Alabama. I can't remember that guy's name at the moment. I feel so bad. I haven't seen him on TV that much. The only thing I see him doing are media scrum, whatever the hell that means. And to me, that's really it. I know that he's calling himself the Forbidden Door. Personally, I don't have a problem with that, because essentially he is the forbidden door. You know what I mean? If he's man, there's so many things that you just said there.
You didn't watch when he came out to hand the honorary AEW title to Giannis from the Milwaukee Bucks. You didn't.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Oh, you need to watch that first, and then tell me that he needs to ever be on TV ever again.
Well, I'm meaning it as like not. He's not actively involved in a storyline where he's on TV talking all the time. If that were the case, I would tell him to never do that.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Well, that's fair enough. I never want to see him. After that, I was like, this guy is such a bad look for his own company. Like, please get off the damn TV.
Well, he's got to be everybody's friend. He's got to be a dork, right? Who else is going to have the capability to go up against somebody that, you know, the ringleader of professional wrestling for how many years now, Vince McMahon? Yeah. You're going to need somebody that's eccentric, that's wealthy, that has the passion. After every single, and I got to go back to this All Out media scrum where it's Tony and the performers sitting there. Mm-hmm. The way that his body language towards those performers and athletes, the way he thanked them.
Wait, on the wrestlers?
Yeah, they're wrestlers, but I mean,
wasn't that the point of that scrum?
Well, yeah, but at the same time, it's like after watching that, I have a little bit more respect for him. Just the way that he kept referring to CM Punk as Mr. Punk. I thought that was hilarious. And it's so like it's dorky, but it's kind of endearing because you see CM Punk sitting there and just like kind of laugh like he keeps saying that shit. This is so stupid.
Yeah.
But he thanked every single one of them for their, you know, contributions to wrestling. He didn't have to do that. You know, and it's kind of neat for me to kind of see somebody that's in that position that's not Vince McMahon, who's wanting to be involved in that and is actually celebrating professional wrestling, not some global company that just they keep trying to motivate shareholders,
right?
Which they have to do at that point. Yeah, professional wrestling is completely out the window, right?
Yeah. So this is. I've had a week of getting into it with the internet wrestling community.
I saw that. I saw that.
And I'm getting too old for it. Like at the end of the day, it's just with every week that passes by, I'm gonna lose more and more touch. I'm gonna be more and more out of touch with what people like anyway. Because I typically like a more old school product. As in wrestling first, even though they say that they are supposed to be wrestling first, they're not yet, and because that's not half of that is not wrestling. So,
well, okay, some of the greatest wrestling matches of all time had what?
What?
They had emotion and they had an interest from the crowd, right?
Sure.
When you saw, we'll take the best example. When you saw Austin and McMahon. Mm-hmm. What made Austin and what made McMahon? McMahon was a figurehead, right? And I didn't know that McMahon was calling the shots when he was ring announcing. I had no idea. To me, he was just my favorite announcer.
Sure.
Steve Austin, all I knew is that he was not going to take shit from anybody. He didn't trust anybody. And if you got in his way of the World Wrestling Federation Championship, he was going to give you a stunner.
Yeah.
So you had these two styles of people, and when it all culminated, it was a huge payoff, right? That is great wrestling. There was not that much arm drags and drop toe holds and you know, rear naked chokes. There was none of that before they actually got to the climax of a great storyline. Well, we like stories.
I'll say this about them specifically.
Okay.
As you brought them up yes, of course, McMahon wasn't a wrestler, so yes, that's not going to be a technical masterpiece. It was theater.
Well, that's my whole point.
Right.
Is that professional wrestling is a type of theater.
Yes,
And that's what we have right now is a type of theater where regardless of if you're into the match style, like we can talk about Lucha Brothers and Young
Right.
Bucks, we'll get there. But as far as like a wrestling show that I think is as close to and has a big time feel as, you know, WWF Raw had in the late 90s and Nitro had in the late 90s.
Mm.
This is the closest thing we've got to, I don't know what's going to happen, and I have to watch it. I could give a shit about Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley being in a tag team match because they have nothing in common.
Oh, dude.
Nothing happened to them.
Raw is terrible.
It is terrible. But you also have, you know, angles with the Usos who can't get into foreign countries because of all their DUIs. That is a story.
Listen, that's a certain form of who knows what's going to happen next with them in their personal lives.
Right. Sorry, the Usos couldn't make it to the Ottawa taping this evening for obvious reasons. Not even $50 at the Peace Bridge got them over.
No, I absolutely hear what you're saying. It's relatability. You know, Austin at the height of his popularity was because people looked at that and on its very basic level went, yeah, I'd love to do that to my boss. Like,
yes,
fuck the man. And so they related to him. These days, the fan base that watch AEW relates to them.
Yes,
which is why the wrestlers look like the fans. Sorry, not all of them. They're getting there. They're getting there.
They're getting there, and I think a lot of the card that's been at AEW for the last 2 years, that, you know, Dark Order, like I think that they're being taken down a notch because we're now getting bigger pieces to the puzzle. While all of those smaller pieces are still important to the big picture, you need those anchor pieces to kind of know where you're going.
Yeah.
So the more that you can, you know the Ferris wheel's on the box. You're trying to make the Ferris wheel happen with all the puzzle pieces, right? You know what professional wrestling's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
You've got the border done. You have all of the border pieces in place. Now we're starting to get the transition of, oh shit, we're starting to build a pretty cool picture here. We still don't know exactly how we're going to do it, but we know that we have the pieces to do that. Going back to what this whole thing was started about, Mick Foley is 100% correct in that I personally, if I were trying to get into pro wrestling, I would stay away from WWE.
Yeah.
I just have to. Another news article, and was there anything else you want to add to that? Because I'm sure we're going to touch on all of that here in a little bit when we talk about All Out.
I feel like that's an overarching thing in pretty much all wrestling related news right now. So
yeah,
it's just a weird time.
it's a weird, but it's also like a super fun,
absolutely
super fun time.
No one can deny that it's creating a fun atmosphere,
right?
For sure. We know what's happened in the past when Vince has actually had competition per se. This is the hard part for me, is that I don't think monetarily that they're anywhere near close to competition. So I don't think he cares yet. I don't think Vince cares yet. I honestly, and going back to are they really trying to sell? Are they really like always looking on the horizon as to who might want to buy this? They want to be a content creator. They want to be a global entity. They're just not interested. That's the past, you know.
Well, speaking of, let's talk about global dominance, right? NXT UK might be going away. NXT Japan or WWE Japan is gone.
Yeah.
They had like 200 people, and WWE closed that down because of poor management, right?
Yeah, I read that.
Let's talk about real quick before we jump into anything else. You know, let's look at the landscape of professional wrestling based on talent. In WWE, you've got some pretty big players, albeit their personalities. Roman Reigns, great athlete, has a phenomenal look, looks awesome, but has, you know, pretty decent matches. you're more invested in
Oh,
the character of Roman Reigns than you are the wrestler Roman Reigns. I haven't seen him have a match where he's not wrestling. I'm not going to say enhancement talent, but he's not having constant matches. He's having pay-per-view matches.
well, that's how you treat stars.
I guess, but it
He
doesn't
used to.
do anything. You're exactly right. He did used to have a lot of.
And guess what he got? He got booed out the building for fucking
Exactly.
years.
So he's protected. So to me, it's just kind of like I don't. It's not valid. I don't have anything to base him and John Cena. You know, the last match that we saw with Roman Reigns was him against John Cena at SummerSlam.
Okay.
So to me, it's just kind of like, all right, he's the Universal Champion. He looks great. He can work. Fantastic, right? Cuts a great promo. He's got the best talker outside of Ric Flair in Paul Heyman at his side. And there's a great story between them. Fantastic. Your WWE champion, Bobby Lashley, has a lot of matches. He can actually do stuff. He's probably the more believable champion that WWE has.
Sure.
Charlotte Flair, Raw Women's Champion, about to go up against a girl that's got a doll and is inviting her to her playground.
Oh no, I don't want to talk about them. I just don't.
I'm just saying that's what's on the other channel in regards to AEW. Becky Lynch, she squashed someone who does circles, in my opinion, around every other women's champion that we've had in a long time in Bianca Belair.
Mm-hmm.
Does she have a lot to learn? Sure. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, but she's fucking killing it. Shinsuke Nakamura is your Intercontinental Champion. Headlined the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
And he's King Nakamura with some goober playing guitar. Yeah. Okay.
Isn't he also the IC champion though?
Yeah, I just said Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Damian Priest, which is no longer the United States champion. It's the American Championship. Did you see that?
No, that's not true. Is that really?
Look on their website. American Championship.
Oh my God.
RK Bro is your Raw Championship.
It's like the only bright spark in. It's the only thing. It's the only thing I care about.
Yeah,
even though I don't care for a Riddle, it's the only thing I care about. Yeah, dude, I hear you. I absolutely hear you. Again, I'm trying actively to stay away from Raw. So,
well, I'm just saying, it's like you have all of these, phenomenal athletes. You got Big E. You've got Brock Lesnar. You've got fucking Cesaro. And those people could really make a difference. Dexter Lumis, dude.
mm-hmm.
If that guy had the right package and was booked the right way, it could be game over. You still have Edge.
Remember, we've listened to Cornette talk about how whoever he was before he was hired by the WWE was a good package. Yeah. He was always a fan of his. And then this silent serial killer thing that he's got going, I don't know.
It could be cool. It really could be cool.
I think it's worth noting here that whether it proves correct or not,
mm-hmm.
the guy whose opinion matters in that company, the only guy, did not believe that the system from NXT was working, that their system of building new talent was working. Not for him. He doesn't get indie stuff. He wants the whole point of the revamp of NXT and the whole point of letting go of some of these guys was because they want to focus on new talent only. They want to build stars. They want to build young stars, but they don't see stars in people like, I don't know, like new Daniel Bryans, new, like Adam Cole's. Like they're not going to offer huge money to keep people like that around. They want to kind of like their old gladiators of old, the big jack dudes, the guys like I told you about, the new Brock Lesnar, the
LA Knight guys.
Oh yeah, yeah, people like that. Which
Yeah.
which honestly, he's a great talker. LA Knight. He looks like a star. He just needs to be in a better program. But
Or just work a certain way to hide all of
yeah,
his flaws.
yeah. Well, I don't really know what is it. What are his flaws? What do you
I'm
mean?
just saying, if we're trying to promote somebody like that,
Yeah,
like Austin has talked about a lot. He's like, I've got 5 moves. Cena, I've got 5 moves.
Right.
But you got to work with somebody that has more that can elevate you.
yeah,
So work with somebody that, the styles clash. That makes
Yeah.
for a great fight.
yeah. Sure, absolutely.
So that's where I disagree with the mentality of we need big, big, big guys. If you have big, big, big guys that all are in the same developmental territory, you're going to get watered down horseshit where everybody works the same. Nobody learned a certain style. They refined it. And then here we go. That's where I have a problem with what they're doing. And the fact that that has made so much headline news makes me completely disinterested because I know what that looks like. When you watch Raw or you watch SmackDown, they telegraph everything so well to where like, oh, this is how this is going to play out.
Right.
Cesaro's not going to win. Kevin Owens is not going to win. Sami Zayn is not going to win. Because everything... So AEW, to me, far outweighs everything that WWE's been trying to do this entire pandemic era. You just automatically know what's going to happen.
Isn't a lot of that to do with the fact that you don't really know half of the talent on AEW? So why would you know who's going to win or not?
Fair. Super fair.
And that's why I said this to you on our just in a text message yesterday that like I'm excited to see in 6 months from now when they've stopped just hiring everybody every week and settled into this new wave of talent that obviously includes a lot of ring generals.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they're doing then and how to not make it predictable then. Because once you're used to all this and you've bounced back from the newness,
Yeah.
that's when it counts. You can't just keep debuting somebody every week to get ratings. Like eventually you got to settle into good storytelling. Like,
well, I think it's just I think that's an unintended consequence of what's been going on in professional wrestling lately.
Sure.
I don't
Which,
think,
again, is all WWE's fault.
Yeah. Thanks, Vince. Perhaps we can give it some more.
Give it some more.
Give it to me, babe.
Amazing.
There's a thing here. I'm not even gonna. Well, I'll say it real quickly. Tony Kahn talking about AEW's financial success.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this. Okay, Kahn was asked if AEW was successful earlier than he had expected, and he said yes. He said that they were not making much money from Dynamite when they started out, but TNT has since put up $175 million over 4 years to keep them. He said that he has put up 8 figures of his own money into developing the AEW video game so that they don't have to share in the profits with the developer when the time comes.
Of course he is.
First off, if you can make, and this is a prime example of this is, I think the company's called SCS, all right? Mm-hmm. They make a video game, and it's a completely different genre. Mm-hmm. They have video games called Euro Truck Simulator and American Truck Simulator. Now, hear me out. Euro Truck Simulator is a video game where you drive, I'm not kidding, you drive a semi-truck or a lorry around all of Europe, and you make deliveries. That's the game. Okay? Through DLCs, downloadable content with different maps that are like $10 or $15 a pop, they have sold over 6 million copies of all things. American Truck Simulator, they just put out Wyoming. I saw a whole report about this, so don't get it twisted. If you could make a great video game that has longevity, that is a massive profit center. Absolutely massive profit center. So the fact that he's investing that much money to put into a video game that they can then sell, and everybody that's on their roster, they love the video games. They love them. I think that's a genius move. If you can create a really, really great video game that'll get people to play it and then also purchase the DLCs, fantastic business move in this new era of content. It's massive.
Sure. I mean, wrestling video games have been around for 20 plus years.
And WWE screwed up and they stopped investing a whole lot of money in something that people love to do.
Well,
they
yeah,
love to be in the ring. They want to be in the ring.
A lot of that is to do with 2K as a company.
Yeah.
They screwed the pooch.
Yeah. They really did.
Yeah. And if it were up to me, if I was in charge of that department for WWE, I would have been actively looking for a different partner to make another video game with, because they just, yeah.
I think from what I've read, WWE screwed 2K.
Really?
It wasn't the other way around. It was like, oh, we can't do motion capture, use stuff from before. Oh, we can't have talent come in and do voiceovers, use the stuff from before, get creative. At least that's my opinion. I could be wrong.
Oh, I haven't read anything like that. So, I mean, if you had read that, then fair enough. But I can't. That's so hard to believe. Why would they do that?
I don't know.
Why do they do a lot of the stuff they do?
Yeah, I mean, Nick Kahn, folks. Who needs video games? Oh, that's Vince. Sorry.
No, surely Nick Kahn understands the profit margin in a video game. And
if they did, they would have poured some gasoline on it over the pandemic. By the way, everybody else worked during the pandemic.
Yeah,
I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard. Fuck, Atlanta, Georgia is probably one of the premier places for motion capture. It's not that far away from Florida, and a lot of people live pretty close.
Yeah,
there was ample when you're taping multiple shows at the Performance Center for an entire month. Everybody has a ton of downtime. Those places are huge, the motion capture centers, and they have a couple in Orlando.
Yeah,
there's no reason why that was delayed. Absolutely no reason.
Yeah,
it's WWE's fault. Now the game's not even coming out until next year. Anyway, Russo, Vince Russo, the human shit stain himself, tweeted that he worked with WWE this past Friday on a project, I think, for Peacock. Pleasurable experience. All involved were pros and respectable. You know you've done some bullshit when you have to bring up the fact that it was a great experience and everybody that was around were professional and respectable. Like, yes. You're telling me that you went into this situation expecting to be treated like garbage and you weren't. He also said, I really do hope that those who need to see my comments -- see them. While I don't want a job, if you didn't want a job, you wouldn't have said anything about it. You turd.
You turd.
God, just go away. So, speaking of going away, Netflix, October 5th, Escape the Undertaker.
Sorry.
The flick stars the legendary Undertaker along with Big E, Xavier Woods, and Kofi Kingston, who comprise the New Day, one of WWE's most popular acts of the last decade. Debatable. The film sees the trio visit the Undertaker's mansion. Debatable, which turns out to be an extreme haunted house packed to the brim with supernatural challenges. So you mean to tell me the Undertaker invested in some property and then gimmicked it up? Doubt it. According to Bloody Disgusting, you'll decide the fate of the New Day as the group tries to survive the wrath of the Undertaker.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Listen, before you say anything, as dumb as this sounds, there's only been one other interactive movie, and it was, did you ever watch the Black Mirror stuff?
No.
Dude, firstly, Black Mirror is amazing.
Okay.
As far as like a TV series anyway.
Can you see yourself in it, or I'm just kidding?
No.
Oh, I'm a dad.
Dad joke.
Yeah.
That was a dog dad joke right there.
Do you need some Windex? I mean,
no. Amazing series. All that aside, they released a movie based on the series that was interactive, that you picked. It was like an interactive adventure book where you.
That's super cool.
And that's what this is about. That's what this is like. So regardless of probably how goofy and cheesy and kid-like the movie is, the fact that they're doing something like that, I've only ever seen one other thing like this.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty neat that they're the ones that are on Netflix doing that
Right.
when there's a massive NBC Universal deal.
Yeah, right.
Why did okay, but all right.
Yep.
But Matt Riddle, you want to take this one here?
Yeah, sure. It's really funny. Apparently, Riddle, I'm just by his one name, got some backstage heat for understandably, this is so weird to me, for responding to a tweet. I don't know if you saw when Roman Reigns retweeted the, I think it was the either viewership or the amount of money or the amount of people that came to see SummerSlam, and then retweeted it and said legit needle moving. I think that's all he said. Did you see that?
I'm looking at it now.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really keep up on the Twitter
on the
machine,
Twitter
but
side, yeah. And that's fine. Well, basically, was about the extent of it.
okay.
And Riddle then, in an interview with Graham Matthews of Bleacher Report, seemingly took offense to it, which just makes me think that, dude, maybe you should lay off the weed a little.
He's the head of the table.
But also, like, he wasn't saying it was just him. This was clearly a, hey, WWE are legit needle moving, and Riddle took offense to it. So, and he said, and I quote, and this is from a longer quote.
Okay.
"You're related to The Rock. Shut up. I'm not impressed. I can beat you up in a real fight, so shut your mouth. You're not moving needles." And then he went on to say something about how RK Bro are moving needles.
Well, okay, so RK Bro, they're about to get their own scooter,
right?
Okay. Is Roman Reigns going to get his oon breathalyzer?
No, what he should get that's Usos. What Roman Reigns should get his own Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos. That's it. No, yeah, I get what you're saying. The fact is, though, that comment was not intended for you. That comment was intended to, like, shots fired to another company.
Yeah.
This guy's an idiot.
I don't think he's an idiot because we're talking about him, number one. And number two, like, take your shots, kid. Like, if you wanna be somebody that goes up against Roman Reigns and you want to start that conversation of like, hey, what would Riddle and Reigns look like? I'd be there for it. I'd like to see Riddle get a shot.
So the way that you would put that is, I can beat you up in a real fight and bury your champion.
It's Matt Riddle. That's his ice cream, bro. Like, that's for him. That's something that I could see him mouthing off at. Like, that's, to me, that's his personality. I'm okay with that. If somebody like Mansoor said that, you know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, hey, bro, pump the brakes. But Riddle saying that, like, he's been doing that to Goldberg. He's said stuff about Brock. So to me, it's just kind of like, yeah, that's Riddle. He's in character, probably, and maybe trying to work himself into an angle with Roman Reigns, and yeah, why not, man? Why not?
So what we're saying here is, in this interview, he's in character and saying how he can beat up their one of their champions, arguably their biggest champion star on in the company, in a real fight. But then on Raw, he's not in character because he's losing to just regular wrestlers.
Hey, look, I'm not in charge. I'm not Bruce Pritchard. I can't defend what happens on their awful programming.
Really, the way that I saw this was that was a shot to me, to AEW and any other company saying, hey, we are legit needle moving, not you guys. It was whether you agree with that or not. That was what that was intended for. So when you have someone on your own roster then calling it out, to me, that just looks like straight stupidity.
Well, dude, he is he's constantly
lots of
constantly high.
Yes, that too.
Gable Steveson signs with WWE. How confirmed is it? I see it's reportedly.
Okay, so he tweeted that pen was to paper. He said, I have signed. He didn't say WWE, but he said, I've signed. And the fact is even though I even said to you that I would love to see someone like that go to AEW, WWE is all this guy has talked about for the last year straight. So,
yeah.
And then he appeared at it was SummerSlam, right? He appeared. Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious. But
the SummerSlam appearance was so weird. They walked to the ring and then we cut to a pre-tape.
Yeah.
You guys are just, it's so bad. Phoning it in. We need 10 minutes. Who do we got? Oh, Gable Steveson and the girl. Okay, send it. Send it. NXT, the new NXT next week, next Tuesday.
I want your actual thoughts on this, and I don't want you to be lazy. I don't want you to be lazy and say I don't care. I'm not going to watch it. I want to know what you think of this and what you think it's going to look like.
I think it's with the logo that looks like the first AEW splatter paint.
Right.
Like, oh God. I don't know. I mean, I definitely don't want to judge a book by its cover, but if that is for real, the new logo, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Feels a little Chuck E. Cheese. I think it kind of taking away, like okay. If you use YouTube TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go to NXT on YouTube TV, there's always like a little graphic that kind of shows you like what you're about to watch, right?
Yeah.
So for NXT right now, it's a Chrome X with a gold NXT logo in the middle. And right below that is the USA logo in the same kind of gold, reflective thing. But flanked above the NXT logo are some emerald wings and a skull. To me, that reeks of I'm trying way too hard.
Yeah.
For Monday Night Raw, their graphic is Must Be Monday. And it's got Bobby Lashley, Rhea Ripley, I forgot her name already. I'm looking right at her. Alexa Bliss, and then Drew McIntyre with his sword. All right. AEW is their graphic is Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes in a hold with the,
yeah.
I just ran a 5K and they splattered me with stuff going on in the background. Rampage is a graphic of basically everybody with Sting's face the biggest. SmackDown is just the kind of pitch of the trussing with the SmackDown logo in the middle. And then when you go to
there,
well, when you go to watch SmackDown, before they when the episode first releases, they have a standard graphic for SmackDown, and it's The Rock.
Still
until the show actually fully finishes uploading to their video on demand, then you'll see a picture of what happened on that that night, whatever the big thing was, whatever screenshot it was. For Raw, it's Hulk Hogan.
Oh my God.
In the boa. So as far as branding goes, with NXT's new logo, it just, I don't know, it just feels like when Instagram changed their logo, right, to the gradient that some kid made in paint. It just picked the gradient. Personally, I saw the rendering of what the little arena is supposed to look like with the seating all the way around. That looks like some old school TV stuff. That's kind of cool.
Okay.
I mean, I'll watch it, but it's not something, just like you said earlier with AEW, the reason why it feels more unpredictable is because you don't know who these people are and you don't know what they're capable of. Yeah, that's definitely it. NXT, same story, but it's WWE booking it, and apparently Bruce Pritchard is booking it with Vince and Johnny. I could give a shit.
Yeah.
Bruce, like, man, I love hearing you tell stories about what happened when, but bro, I know your logic's there. I know that your passion is there. I know that you're one of the great minds, man. You used to ring announce in your teens in Houston. Like, that's awesome. But your time is up. Their time is now. Lastly on news, let me ask you, what about you? Are you excited about the rebranding of NXT? Like, have you seen the arena mock-up kind of thing?
I haven't seen the arena mock-up, and I'm going to look that up now. But I don't have any feelings whatsoever. And that's this conditioned thing that I've got from NXT, honestly. And now, do I believe that they've put on some fantastic shows, and put on some amazing matches and amazing cards? Yes, absolutely. I was there for one of them. I was in New Orleans, and it was an amazing show, and we can't take that away from them. Like, early on, in Triple H's vision of NXT, those takeovers were fantastic. Yeah, and some of those TV shows were amazing. But I don't know, because this is what WWE does.
It is exactly what they do. They order the Whopper and only give us the cheese that's melted on the wrapper.
And now, are they happy? The question here is, are they happy being McDonald's and Disney, and and letting AEW be eventually the upscale burger place? You know.
The Burger Up.
Yeah. I don't know.
The 12 South location.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, exactly. And the answer is yes. It's seemingly everything about it seems yes. There's no hunger there to prove themselves. They don't want to prove themselves anymore. Now, what I'm hoping is eventually that all these people showing up on AEW is that eventually they will start beating Raw in the ratings. Though it's still not proving anything to me, because their audience can be very fickle.
AEW's audience,
and they just want clearly look at the viewership difference in 2 weeks with Rampage. It was
I don't think the go home wasn't that hot, but then again, they didn't advertise anything to be different. You know what I mean? It's an hour show, and they also, I think most of the fans like myself knew that after that hour show, it was going to be all the vignettes for All Out. Yeah. I think based on the match card that was announced, just kind of like, I don't need to see that. I don't need to see that.
Sure.
So I don't know. Yeah. I think they're still getting their feet wet. Tony Khan on Jim Cornette.
Well,
this is completely different than what we hear Jim Cornette on Tony Khan. Tony Khan said, as somebody I look up to said, wrestling fans watch wrestling program to see the wrestlers wrestle. And even if I don't always follow everything he says or haven't always made him happy, that is probably the person I've learned the most about the wrestling business from. I don't think he would probably take a lot of credit for me as his protege, but the fact is he's right about that.
So the reason I put potentially Jim Cornette is typically because he's been known to say that a lot.
Yeah.
So there's no confirmation that's who he was talking about, but man, does it sound like that's who he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, and you and I both have listened to the Bobby Eaton episode from Cornette. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited I got some yard work to do today. I'm excited to listen to Cornette's take on All Out, because
same.
As much as I don't think he's a shock jock. I think he's just way more passionate than any of us could ever imagine. And he's got a more colorful delivery than anybody.
I think honestly, man, I think if anyone actually listens to his show,
right.
it would be completely asinine to say that he's just a shock jock. Like, come on,
Yeah.
dude. Like, he breaks down matches and says why things are incorrectly done.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, it's a stupid take. If
It
you
is a
think,
stupid take. It's for people that aren't that funny.
Right.
That's, you know what I mean? And they're not that smart, like you just said. And I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence. We all have our faults. I'm terrible at math. But he does have this uncanny way of going like, this is why you don't tag in this particular situation.
Yeah.
This is why you lay there for a few minutes and watch what happens.
Yeah.
You have to build that anticipation. It's such great storytelling, and his train of thought. I don't know how he keeps himself together. I would love to see. For a while there, he was ripping up the notes that he would have about AEW, and Brian would freak out and be like, "Why are you doing that? People would love to see that. I'm one of those fucking people. I would love to see that shit."
Same.
And just to like, it's a masterclass, man.
Yeah.
And his interpretation of scripture, his interpretation of professional wrestling is refreshing. It's like, oh fuck, you're right. It could have been that way. It really could have been that much better. And it's cool to me, even if he's indirectly referencing, if Tony Khan is indirectly referencing Jim Cornette, it's cool to know that he's still got an ear for what someone like Jim Cornette has to say, who's been overly critical. I think that shows, again, we are assuming that is something that's happening, right? That Tony is listening to Cornette. If that is the truth, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That shows a lot of character on behalf of Tony Khan to listen to his critics. Not a lot of people read the mentions that are negative.
Mm-hmm.
And some people can't handle it.
And this was very shortly after that quote. Apparently, was very shortly after Cornette praised Tony Khan for his treatment, the show's treatment of Bobby Eaton, and like their dedication to him. Probably the only thing on record that that Jim Cornette has ever said nice about Tony Khan. So,
well, he's said a few things, but anyway,
yeah,
it's an interesting time. Anything else news related that you wanna rap about before we start talking about probably one of my favorite AEW favorite wrestling pay-per-views of all time?
No, I don't think so. That's pretty much it as far as news is concerned. It's all been about this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And Empower, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to talk about that at all?
Man, okay, let's talk about Empower. First off, I thought it was super funny that the pay-per-view was sponsored by Bush Beer. I loved it when every time he would kind of go to that, he would. Tonight's pay-per-view is sponsored by Bush Beer, which is great. A women's pay-per-view sponsored by Bush.
Yeah, that's great.
I had some. Let me see if I can go back because I kind of got rid of my 3 counts for this show, but I'll quickly surmise. I thought one of the biggest surprises, you can call it a kick out of the night, was Red Velvet. In my opinion, Red Velvet stole the show. In my opinion, I thought she did great.
Okay,
that's just me.
I don't know if you're just looking for AEW talent just to be awesome, but like
I'm not.
I remember when you texted me and said she got some, like, no one could take their eyes off her. Man, there was like 3 other people that got way bigger pops than she did. And
of course.
Bigger. Yeah. So I don't, nothing stood out about her that night to me, like in comparison to a couple of the other actual legit. And I'm trying to remember her name. In that,
Kylan King.
No, she was like the hometown hero. In that women's kind of battle royale thing that they did. Man,
You talking about Chelsea Green?
no,
No.
nope. She was an independent indie wrestler. Well, they all are, but like
You talking about
not
Sky Blue?
was it Sky? It might have been Sky Blue.
Yeah.
Her, and then there was another Sky Blue, and then there was another girl that came out towards the end that she was the one hugging the four women, the four ladies in the front that were having the time of their lives.
Oh, are you talking? Oh man, not Layla Hirsch.
It's like Toonie or something was her name, and they were like hometown heroes, basically.
Uh,
Can we pull up the roster of the people that were in that match?
wasn't Tootie Lynn? Was it?
That's it. Tootie Lynn.
Yeah,
She got the
Tootie
biggest
Lynn.
pop of the night. That was
Well,
it.
Yeah.
They loved her.
I thought it was really neat that we've been able to kind of establish that this is possible.
Yeah.
And Gail Kim, Medusa, seeing
Kong.
Debbie Malenko, like let's go.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Dude, Kong.
Yeah, and Kong. I thought it was. I teared up, man. I really did.
Me too. That moment between the two of them, that was very touching.
Yeah, and big up to Mickey James, man. Like, phew, her coming out at the top and yeah, yeah.
I texted
It's
her
good stuff.
Congratulations from us, and said that yeah, I told her that well, Claire and I both watched her opening and teared up during her promo for it.
Yeah,
which is absolutely true.
Right.
She's a superstar, and good for her. This is awesome. So
she looked great, man.
yeah,
hardcore country. Let's go. I honestly think I'll try to remember my 3 count and
mm-hmm.
and do it. But man, Deonna Purrazzo,
yeah,
what a monster, man!
She's
what
a
an
star.
absolute monster. Yeah. And she's 27. Like she can go for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Kaylin King, I thought also looked really great. Her and Red Velvet again. I know you're gonna, hate on me for rooting for.
No, I liked the tag match. I liked it. Absolutely. I had no criticism about it.
Right.
It didn't stand out to me. That's all. It wasn't like this clear winner of the night for me. That wasn't that. That was all. I absolutely had no issues with their wrestling that night.
Yeah,
not at all.
Well, it was just, I mean, to know that there's even more talent out there. I would really love, and this is kind of how I feel about college football, right? We saw Alabama just completely whip up on the Miami Hurricanes, right? Yeah. I want to see whoever wins the national championship in college football. I want to see them go up against whoever wins the Super Bowl, right? Hear me out. In a like, get the biggest stadium you can find, whether it's a college stadium or whatever. Every ticket goes to charity. There's a charity for the college team. There's a charity for the professional team. A percentage of all the food that's sold there. A percentage of all the ad revenue, and it's just a scrimmage between two of the greatest football teams in the United States, both from college and from professional. Right?
Yeah.
I want to see the same thing happen with professional wrestling. I want to see.
The thing about wrestling, though, is that unlike in the very real scenario of the best pro, even the worst pro team going up against the best college team, in wrestling, they'd be matched evenly. In real life, this is something that's been discussed many times, because a lot of Alabama fans like to pretend that they could beat like the Jags, for instance, or whatever.
Right. The Browns.
No, the reality is that it would be an embarrassment because you have a couple of stars that are green, and in actual real sports, it would be a complete demolishing.
Well, sure. I'm just saying, I would love it if we could do if Mickey could do, and it's probably going to be impossible, but another NWA Empower where we get Charlotte Flair in there, we get Becky Lynch
would be
in there.
awesome. It would be awesome to have all of them.
Yeah, and I think that's, and in all honesty, I think that's more possible for women's wrestling than it is for men's wrestling.
Yeah,
Which is cool to even think and say that could be a possibility to see Mickey James against Bianca Belair, to see Deonna Purrazzo versus Charlotte, to see Melina, against anybody, Becky Lynch. I think that would be so much fun to kind of get that happening. Again, great show. I loved the look of the chase. I there's nothing you could change about that. It wasn't even nostalgia. It was, I can't think of the right way to put it, and I can't say anything about it that I can't. It was fucking fun, man.
Yeah, it was.
Only thing that
would have been more fun is if we'd been there and got to experience it firsthand.
Yeah,
that was it.
So, that would be rad.
Yeah.
I guess let's talk about All Out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
This was, like I mentioned earlier, probably my favorite pay-per-view that I've seen in a very, very long time. It was so much fun. Let's start with let's go from the bottom up, right? What was your tap out?
Definitely the Casino Battle Royale.
Really? Okay.
What a cluster.
Anything in particular that made it just probably the worst thing on the show?
Was there anything particular that made it any good?
I mean, I didn't rate it good or bad. I left it off. It was kind of like the well, we'll get to that in a minute. But I had Paul White and QT Marshall as the worst thing.
The thing is I just don't care about that. Like, I mean, this is a guy that people were these same fans, and yes, it is these same fans, the same types of fans, were chanting for him to retire over and over again, and then they embrace him with open arms in like this old. Who cares about the old Big Show? Like, who cares about Paul White? And a way to make people care about him is not by putting him in a match with QT Marshall.
Yeah, QT. So he was on Busted Open, did like a pre All Out kind of interview thing, right?
Yeah.
And one of the people that they interviewed, the Dave LaGreca interview, was QT, and QT formats the show.
Yeah.
And he said, the last time I was on pay-per-view, my entrance was about 30 to 40 seconds. This time I'm going to make it a minute and a half because I want to personally soak that in. And I'm also putting us later in the night because we need something in between to kind of get us set up for the main event. So we're basically co-headlining. And I thought, okay, this guy's a prick.
Right.
And nobody cares. We all know now that Cody is filming another TV show. He's supposed to be coming back here pretty soon. Cody now has go away heat with me because if you want to start a storyline, don't start it and leave and then not say anything.
Yeah.
It's the 21st century, brother. We've got social media. Like, we know what's happening. You don't need to be like, oh, I was so injured by Malachi Black, when the next, like 2 weeks later, Arn Anderson blocks the kick.
Oh, that was so stupid.
It was so dumb. And to me, that's not an Arn Anderson thing. That's not a Malachi Black thing. That's a Cody thing. Yeah. Fuck that guy. Fuck him and his wife.
You think Cody
I hope they're great.
That spot?
I hope they're healthy. Of course he did.
Huh.
Of course he. I honestly think that Cody is in behind all of that, and Arn is like, yes, I'll do it for the check.
Okay, fair enough.
Listen, I'll be just as critical of AEW as anybody else. I can't stand Cody. I don't want to see him again.
Yeah.
Unless he comes back. Well, you know what's going to happen. He's going to come back and give some kind of like semi-political, big word having promo that I think this time around people are going to be chanting what?
Mm,
You know what I mean? And that's how I think that's how you know that if you're in wrestling and you're getting the what's, nobody cares.
yeah.
Nobody cares. So that's what I thought about that match. It was my tap out. I did not care. You had the women's casino battle royal. What did you think of Ruby Soho? How did you feel about that? Yeah. That's kind of, for those of you that can't see what I see, he's kind of shrugging his shoulders, looking sad and down, like, I guess I want a grilled cheese. I don't know.
Yeah, here's the thing. She looks cool. She's always looked cool, but
She looked
she's
great.
never pushed any envelope for me. Like I've never been like, oh, Ruby Riot. Like I've never cared that much about her. So I don't.
Well, she was also put in a faction of people that like didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah, I guess.
I didn't care about her before. I'll give you that. I'm excited to see what. And after watching that media scrum where she was just kind of saying like, it's cool to come to work and be happy to come to work, and Tony said, I want you to be here. After Ruby had said like, what do you want out of me? Like, what kind of character are you looking for? And he was like, I just want you to be you.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like he's going to be everyone's friend, and unfortunately, eventually, being everyone's friend doesn't work out. Eventually, when you're their boss, and I think we all know that. But that's another conversation. But
Everybody talks about how much they have respect for every single ex-WWE person. All talks about how they love Vince McMahon. Right?
Yeah.
So just because he's a great guy, and him being Tony Khan, doesn't mean that I'm sure he's not giving direction. It's just they play things a little bit closer to the vest than everybody else does.
Yes.
It's not until after something happens that these wrestlers talk about what happened.
Yeah. Again, time will tell. Absolutely. Of course, I'm not a damn expert. I don't work in wrestling, so this is just speculation on my part. I'm just basing it off what happens in every other industry. Right. When the newness of these debuts and stuff wear off, eventually everyone can do whatever they want and be themselves and all the time. And eventually it becomes too many cooks in the kitchen. And eventually it's like, where do we go from here?
I mean, I don't know if any other wrestling promotion has given their wrestlers this much creative control.
No. They haven't.
You know, so we have nothing to base it off of. And you're right. Only time will tell. We'll see where this puts us. After 2 years, it's not doing that bad. They got CM Punk to come back. What was your kick out of the show?
Kick out or TKO? Because I had another.
Tell me.
Yeah, you're not going to agree with this at all.
That's why we have a show.
Yep. I had a total knockout for me.
Okay.
And that was that cage match.
All right.
I'm over them.
What about it specifically? Just so we're clear.
100 miles an hour for 30 minutes.
There was some selling.
For 3 seconds.
There was some selling.
No. Come on, dude.
There was some selling.
You can enjoy it all you want, but there was not selling.
Okay, so I keep seeing this a lot, and I've interacted with some people on Instagram. I have not interacted with anybody on Twitter. So for those of you keeping score at home, Lee is on Twitter.
Yeah,
I am not. I go back and read the wreckage and just go, wow. Bring it to the table. I thoroughly enjoyed the hell out of that match.
Okay.
I knew what I was getting into. I knew that it was going to be probably one of the more choreographed matches ever to take place. I knew that going into it. So, if I know that I'm about to have a Tuscan salad with, seared salmon, I know what it's going to taste like. If I go into it expecting a Caesar salad with Cajun chicken, and I'm eating a different salad, I'm probably going to be upset. Yeah. So I kind of go, I'm trying to treat everything AEW that way. For what they did I loved it. I think there was a good amount of selling. It wasn't as much as it could have been. Yes, it was 90 miles an hour, but that's who those two teams are. That's what Lucha Libre is. That's how the Lucha Brother. Man, I'm telling you what, the shoe spot, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was annoying. It was ridiculous. It's everything that those characters are. I loved the fact. Can I talk about how much I loved the Lucha Brothers whistling? I fucking love that. Every time I can't whistle, by the way, but every time I hear them whistle, I'm like, yes.
Can you really not whistle? You can't whistle?
Only if I inhale. Like, I can't whistle. It's awful. Oh, wow. And I just, it's nothing that, like, I don't know. More on that 11. I gave this match my nuclear heat because I knew that it would generate so much conversation between purists and people that are just trying to enjoy what is out there, right? Not everybody wants to go to a Fish and Friends jam, right? Some people want to hear what the record that they've been listening to, right?
Yeah,
that's what their style is. I didn't necessarily dig the finish with it wasn't Penta that jumped off. It was Ray Phoenix jumping off the top of the cage, doing a crossbody on all three people, and then Penta gets up and immediately covers the other Jackson.
Yeah.
If you watch though, when he does the crossbody onto all three of them, Penta is in the back pushing the other two forward. So even though he fell, the majority of the weight was captured by the Bucks. He just happened to be in the middle of it. So for those people that have that big problem, go back and just watch again. I know you don't want to watch it because you have to see it again. But I loved the fact that they tried to pull the masks off. I loved that there was not a grotesque amount of color in that match, but there was some. They were in a steel cage. I like the way the steel cage looks in AEW.
It looks like WCW.
It looks like WCW, but it looks like a real fucking cage, man.
Right, it's not color.
It's not color. And you know what the other thing is? WWE is notorious when you, like, again, we talked about it earlier, telegraphing things. When you see the big notches cut out in the steel cage to where it's like, oh, they're climbing this sumbitch because they've got it proofed for them to climb.
Yeah.
There were no massive holes in that cage surrounding the ring.
No.
When they went to climb that, they were really climbing that. I love that. It's like Jack White.
Well, they don't need to be. They don't need to because they're all tiny, so they can fit their little feet and little hands in the. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God! Here we go again.
I'm just joking.
No, okay. Let's talk about that, and I'll stop. Sucking at the teat of the Lucha Young Bucks match. I'm happy that the Lucha Brothers are champion. It's different, I'm not used to so much allspice and dark hard noir rolled into one.
I don't need to tear this match apart. All I'm going to say is two things that zone me out. If I can see that it's obviously choreographed, I don't care. Then I'm done. So I'm already out, which is why I'm always out with Young Bucks matches. They're all 30 minutes long. And the second thing is, it was 30 minutes. I don't care.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if it was 100 miles an hour for 10 minutes. But, nah.
It's incredible. To me, you and I both know wrestling is fake, right?
Yeah.
And the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks have this uncanny way of just no-selling everything.
Yeah.
Right? If there's a super kick that used to knock people out, bro.
Right.
It doesn't knock people out anymore when we're talking about the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks. That's fine. Okay. Sure. Keep going. If you're 90 miles an hour, go 90 miles an hour. And they did a bunch of stuff that I had never seen before. So much fun.
And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, and I'm not wrong. It's just not for me. I don't like that. I haven't been shy about that. I've been very, that's just not my style. I don't like them.
I do want to bring up one thing.
Yeah.
So in the media scrum with the Lucha Brothers, Alex Abrahantes was sitting with them, And any question that was asked, he would then tell them the question in Spanish, and Ray Phoenix would typically take the response in his broken English. And then a couple of times, Penta would start talking in just straight Spanish. Did not give a fuck about trying to speak English. And Alex Abrahantes was like, Penta says, I fucking love that dude. I love Alex Abrahantes. He was on fire ringside. His compassion, his emotion, his enthusiasm. That was some fun shit, man.
Fair enough.
If you ever want to go back and watch it, just watch Alex. Incredible. With all that being said, I also had a TKO.
Oh, you did?
I did. And it's funny because I want to touch on the media scrum again. MJF and Jericho.
Yeah.
The finish was cool. How there was some interference that involved another ref, and there was a leg on the rope, and the other ref saw it. Aubrey didn't. The ref tells Aubrey, it's like, no. I saw that. I'm a referee. I'm not a fan in the audience. I saw that there was a mistake on your part. I'm calling you out on it. She tells Justin Roberts. Justin Roberts starts the match. We get the bell. Then we see some back and forth, and Jericho wins. Now, hopefully that's the true end to this storyline, right?
Yeah.
I think MJF did a great job, but I want MJF to go do something else. I want MJF to work with Daniel Bryan. I want MJF to work with Punk. I want MJF to work with Jon Moxley, like in a great way. You know what I mean? Like, that's Jericho, please stop, man. Like, go away for a little bit, go do your band thing, and then come back, and it'll be great, because I'm sure we'll need you to come back again at some point, right? There will be some reason for you to come back to work with Punk again, to mess up with Sting. I don't know. It would be great, but just for now, like, please go away. The funny thing about the media scrum was there were a lot of questions to Adam Cole about who are you anxious to work with. There were a lot of questions to Bryan Danielson about who do you want to work with. A lot of questions to CM Punk about who do you want to work with. No one said anything about Chris Jericho. They brought up MJF. And you could say that over the last year, MJF has had a great program with Chris Jericho. Nobody said that.
No.
All they said was, man, MJF, I'd love to work with him. He's come a long way. Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, and even Daniel Bryanson said, I'm not here to help the younger guys. I'm here to kick their fucking heads in.
Yeah. I think
which was
by
awesome.
The way, let me just stop you just for a second. We need to start getting used to calling him Bryan Danielson.
Yeah. I mean, everybody,
as funny as Daniel Bryanson is.
Yeah.
This is going to be hard for me. So
it's going to be hard. DB. There we go. What's your DB
BD,
in front of house?
BD now.
BD. BGVGs. Yeah. So that pretty much sums up the. Did you have anything else that was the worst thing about the show before we get into our counts?
Still, the worst thing for me was just that women's casino battle royale. The finish was sloppy. The there was not one point in that entire thing that I was like, wow, this really got me. This has got my blood curdling. Like, I'm ready to go. That was pretty much it.
And that's fair, because not one of those ladies is at that level yet.
No, not yet.
And Tony booked that whole thing.
Right.
He was trying his best to set up as many stories as he could for the women's division.
Sure.
So there's probably going to be a lot of callbacks to a lot of the interactions that happen. That's way too much for any casual fan to follow.
Yeah.
It really is. And I to me, I think instead of a battle royal, I don't like the way they do it with the suits.
Well, that was the biggest thing for me too. It doesn't make any sense.
No, and there's no, like, back when the Rumble, like when they would draw a number, right? Yeah. And they wouldn't tell anybody their number. Unless it's happening on Elevation or Dark. Like, I don't see that.
But it's not.
I got a life.
Because if it was happening on other shows, they would have announced earlier who is in each deck.
Yes.
Which
yeah,
they don't. They don't know until it's happening. So what's the point of having decks?
I don't know. All hands on deck. it could be set up a lot better.
And do you know what the worst part of the entire? And you might not agree with me here, but the worst part of the entire women's battle royale for me was Jade Cargill.
Dude, poor girl needs
awful.
Yeah. I think she'll get there. I don't know. I kind of wish that personally between her and Nyla Rose, they both could be huge. But in order for them to be huge, let's go back and look at somebody like the great Khali. Okay. Right. Green, but still a monster. Because it was a limited move set of striking force of people that knew that, oh, I got to sell this, right? I got to get the big guy over to sell some tickets, right? If they were able to kind of like, if Nyla Rose just came in and just started knocking bitches out of the ring, I'd take it seriously.
Yeah.
And you don't need to do much. You don't need to do much. It's just reps. And I don't know how long it's going to take for somebody like Nyla. I mean, she's great. I don't know how long it's going to take for somebody like that to get kind of believable. And I hate critiquing wrestling because I'm not a wrestler. I've never booked wrestling. I'm fully aware of that. As a fan and somebody that's looking for believability, I think I can comment, right?
Sure. And I think that Nyla Rose did light years better than Jade Cargill.
But they're the same type of personality in the ring. They're both beasts, right?
Yeah.
Jade is fucking tall and she's fucking built.
Yeah.
I could totally believe her doing one spin kick and knocking Britt Baker the fuck out.
Yeah.
Or just even with a really strong, right or left. Like, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Everything she did just looked so bad.
Yeah.
It looked like Eva Marie in there.
Oh, Eva Cargill. Let's talk about our counts, man. What was your one count?
Miro versus Kingston.
Hell yeah. That got my kick out. I was not expecting that match to be as good as it was.
So I've tried to keep my kickouts consistent, and that my kickouts are usually not matches. They're usually like reserved for things that you didn't expect, or in this case you did expect, but
yeah,
but like not actual matches. So I try and keep my counts to my matches. But Miro versus Kingston, it was a good match. There, I feel like there was a little bit. Now I'm being really, just from a believability standpoint here.
Right.
I feel like there was a little bit too much selling from Miro. I just want to see him continue to be this dominant monster. Eddie Kingston is awesome, but as he is just straight up the guy that gets the shit kicked out of him and manages to squeak out the win. He isn't the guy that muscles up to a guy that's almost twice his size. That's the only thing, if I'm being ultra critical, but I enjoyed the match. Yeah. I enjoy both of their personas in this way. I really wish after seeing Kingston's entrance, and listening to his his entrance music, it's very on brand. I will say, cultural appropriation aside, it's very on brand. It feels very him. I really wish Miro would get different theme music. I don't know.
I like the shafar. I think the shafar makes total sense.
It sounds too major. We want to talk music for a second here?
He is major.
But he's not. It's not scary. The music is not, it doesn't strike fear into it. That's not a fearful entrance music to me.
Do you know about the shafar?
Of course I do.
Okay, yeah. What am I saying? Of course you do. To me, I think that's perfect for him. That's a war cry kind of sound. We're all preparing for battle. Yeah, in my opinion,
the music behind it makes it sound major, whereas it's not. It should be intimidating. It's not intimidating to me.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's all I'm saying. Like, I get the gods thing. That's great.
Right.
But I feel like they could work on the music a little and make it a little less campy, a little more just intimidating. That's it. That's
drums,
Yeah,
more
something. Yeah, exactly. I think he deserves that. That character deserves that. So
I really want Lana to come back, man. I know she's busy. Is she doing a show right now? I think she's doing a show. I think she's doing a TV show.
I have no idea.
I would love Lana to. I was really hoping that she was going to come out last night.
You think? Yeah.
Oh man, not last night, but
sorry,
Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. I like Eddie Kingston's. I wish this feud would have been built a little bit longer. Redeem these nuts. I thought that was hilarious. I love that he was making fun of Miro's God. I don't, as someone who was formerly religious but also has a great appreciation and respect for all religions. I don't think it's insulting to talk about religion in a scripted TV show because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we have scary movies that get put out where they crucify people and mutilate people, and there's rape, and there's like, for me, it's just kind of like I saw people had a lot of problems with Eddie Kingston talking about God. I think those are probably the same people that pick up hookers in GTA 5. So to me, it's just kind of like pick your poison, you dumbass, and get over yourself. So I'm okay with that. I think it's really fun. I wish there could have been a longer storyline between the two. The match was incredible. I like the fact that there was a little bit of weakness shown. I think we're starting to see more weakness with Miro as the weeks go on, especially around his head, which is amazing. That he's kind of like a video game, like bad guy, right? Whenever you go to face like a bad guy in Mario, right? There's one soft spot. When he turns around, it's his shell. The more you hit his shell, the more you take him out, right? That to me is so much fun that he's got this button that if you press it, he's fucked.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And
it's exactly what it is.
Wrestling, AEW's version of wrestling has become, is more like a video game than pro wrestling of old. Now, I don't necessarily always agree with that. In this case, I'm okay with it. Just because he pulls it off well.
Hasn't it always been the case though? You hit the finisher, the game's over, right? You hit the signature move or whatever, and it's like, oh, then it's over with. It's
no,
done.
Because the way they're booking some of this stuff is like the El Fuego thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe for 1 second that the
Fuego
guy
del
that
Sol,
can,
that's the guy's name.
The guy that can deadlift 600 pounds is going to get Hurricane Rana'd or DDT'd by the 150 pound guy. Like, no.
Look, if 150 pounds is smart enough and strategic enough to move its weight accordingly to get you, the 250 pounder, to get off balance, I see that as believable. I don't know. Surviving a beating and then doing that is not believable.
Sure.
But if you're able to get ahead of that and manipulate your weight and your momentum to take down your opponent, like it makes that's wrestling. That's not even pro wrestling. That's just wrestling.
There were weight classes in wrestling because of that.
That's why this is pro wrestling. My one count was Statlander and Britt Baker.
Okay.
Chris Statlander and Pockets. Orange Cassidy. I loved Orange Cassidy getting fired up and yelling at her, Chris, get back in the ring. Like, I thought that was so awesome. Statlander, man, I loved that match. I thought the finish was great. I like the fact that the Rebel and Jamie Hayter didn't get involved. I think they're great as far as getting heat. I'm excited to see what happens moving forward with Ruby Soho, should say, and Britt Baker. I'm looking forward to tonight. They're in Cincinnati. But yeah, I was blown away by that match. I wasn't expecting much, and it over delivered what I thought could happen. And goddamn, Statlander is just, she's awesome. Britt Baker's great. That was like, I'm trying to A/B it as well with what we've seen in the past with like Charlotte and Nikki ASH, or Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. That match seemed a little bit more physical, and things seemed to connect a lot more. And they sold a lot. There was a lot of manipulation and back and forth. I thought it was a great match. Probably one of my favorite women's matches of 2021.
Cool.
Do we need to get a comment
honestly,
from Lee on this?
Honestly, it got my 2 count.
No shit.
Yeah, it got my 2 count, but I am not comparing it to other. I'm not being delusional, and that is not a. I'm sorry, man, but like
delusional.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. But I don't suck AEW's cock either. So
it's
listen,
fine. You'll learn to like it.
I am comparing it to them, and I'm comparing it to the rest of their roster. Neither one of those. This is again my opinion, just my opinion. Neither one of those wrestlers have ever had a great match. In fact, neither one of them have really come close. So to me, this was like, oh, great, you stepped up your game on a big stage. I'm really glad. I am not one of these people that thought the tooth and nail match was awesome.
No.
The shit. Britt Baker has injured herself in almost every match she's ever been in. She's had more concussions than anyone on that roster. She has not been good. She's just a captivating character, so she can get away with it.
Yep.
Chris Statlander is even worse. This is the only time I've ever seen her be good.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm comparing it to. I'm like, and I'm comparing it to the rest of the matches on the card. They did a really good job, and I'm going to hand it to them. Absolutely. I thought the finish was garbage. Sorry. The finish was stupid. So Statlander out of nowhere can take 2 curb stomps and a Canadian destroyer and still kick out like a top rope Canadian destroyer. I'm just like, shut, Jesus, you were doing so well, and then you just fucking ruined it, like with this stupid indie garbage. I'm sorry, but they still got my 2 count. It still got my 2 count because they were, in comparison to anything I've seen in either of them in. Botches aside, because there were a couple in that match, it was still a really good wrestling match. And the 2 ladies stepped up. They stepped up from everything I've seen them in. I'm not going to put them in anywhere near the class of Charlotte Flair. Sorry, not doing it.
Can't do it. I don't know. The Charlotte Flair of late is my 2 count was triggered. Yeah. I knew when I said Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, I was gonna get Stone Cold Lee.
Who cares? No, not Rhea Ripley. She's brand new too.
Yeah.
Again, we said in the past, Rhea Ripley is really good at selling. Right now, she needs to work on like the rest of her game. Well, all the people who are booking her need to work on it. Charlotte Flair is a megastar. Like, I don't think anybody is on that level yet. That's
why I wish they could wrestle each other.
I do
in an interpromotional kind of way. Hey, real quick, I want to touch on this before we get, because I'll tell you my 2 count and we'll get to the 3 count. Brian Danielson mentioned in his scrum that the offer that WWE gave him included an ability to work elsewhere.
He said that?
He said that.
But he still chose to go to AEW.
Well, yeah, he still chose to go to AEW. So, and I remember seeing, I think that was news to Tony Khan. Huh. That guy was tweaked that entire scrum. He was.
Isn't he always like that?
I don't know. Maybe he's got a tick. You know what I mean? And I don't want to make fun of that or
yeah. Oh,
You know
might
what?
be
You know what?
right. Yeah.
I want to be sensitive about somebody's facials and all that stuff. I don't want to, be.
He might have Tourette's.
He might have Tourette's. I know a lot of people that have Tourette's. But his look was different when Bryan Danielson said that. Like, it was an immediate, like, you didn't tell me that. Like,
Wow.
and it kind of adds to, like, I don't know. I that probably puffed Tony's ego a little bit because Brian explained, like, it's not worth it to go quarantine for 2 weeks to wrestle a couple of shows in Japan. And he was like, I really, really, really want to go to Japan. I really, really want to go to Mexico. But right now, it's just not the safest thing for me to do. Which I thought was pretty interesting. Again, talking about interpromotional activity with Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
I thought I should bring that up about Bryan Danielson.
Yeah. That is really interesting.
It is that was what we had heard, that rumor back earlier this year, that right after Mania, that was going to be an option. He could go work and do New Japan as a WWE employee.
So it came down to the fact that was off the table for the time being during the pandemic era. Obviously it came down to, well, I've worked with everybody in WWE now, and
he has,
which is to me, I think everything that he said was a class act, and it was just refreshing. It was refreshing to not hear shots fired.
Even Adam Cole, man.
Yeah.
Even Adam Cole said, I love Vince McMahon. I'm excited about the challenge.
Yeah.
These guys,
that's great.
I think that should also inspire AEW fans that maybe are in a rut. I look up to all these performers.
Yeah.
I know they're wrestlers or whatever, but I look up to somebody like CM Punk for waiting for the right moment. I have been in a situation for the past 6 months where I've been looking for the right situation, and I finally found it.
Right.
And it's because I was patient and I was discerning, and I took a hit for it, but at the same time, it's like I can't not help but be inspired by Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole and CM Punk for taking risks and believing in themselves and realizing that if it is something that I want to do, I need to do it the right way. And if it's something that's going to make me happy, like, I need to go do that. Bryan Danielson mentioned that leaving WWE was really difficult for him because he does have a lot of strong ties there, and he
that we know. Family wise,
he even said that. He was like, a lot of those people are family. He was like, wait a minute, some of them are my family.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of Punk, man, my 2 count was Darby versus Punk.
Oh wow, you gave it your 2.
I gave it my 2 count. I didn't give it my 3 count, and there's a really good reason why.
Oh yeah, I know.
I had such a fun time, and we saw you sent me this before we started recording. Let's do the Bret Hart 1, 2, 3 kid match. If you haven't seen that yet, and if you're listening to this, which if you've gotten this far, God bless you. There is a tweet that I'm sure we retweeted by now, right?
You know what? I didn't
retweet that. If you want to follow us for more ridiculous Lee antics, trolling podcast on all social media. Again, that's Lee tweeting. No, I'm just kidding.
Sometimes you,
sometimes me, and it's usually like hey man, peace. Absolutely unreal from start to finish. Mainly because of it's CM Punk in a wrestling match against someone who is a phenomenal wrestler. Yeah. It was great. It was slow. It was methodical.
Yeah.
It seemed like a real struggle to see. It was neat for me because CM Punk wrestled like he was trying to evaluate himself in the moment and evaluate. I know I've been watching, like CM Punk is thinking, I know I've been watching Darby Allin for so long. I'm witnessing it. Now I'm in front of it. And now I'm actually in a ring right now. There was that moment of I'm in a ring. I'm about to wrestle. The bell rings. People are still on their feet. It wasn't until about 2 minutes into the match where people actually went, okay, let's sit down. Let's watch this.
Yeah.
Um, I loved everything about it, man.
Yeah.
I really did. You know, even the dive, the through the ropes dive, that Darby did towards the hard cam and just hitting the
yeah.
fuck.
Well, this is
That kid
important.
is crazy.
That's important. That's actually a really important part of this whole buildup. Is that CM Punk has not been shy about talking about how he wishes every other wrestler would stop doing dives after seeing Darby Allin's. He built that move up. He said, "He said I'm scared to take that dive, that through the ropes dive from him because he legit looks like he's going to murder somebody." You know,
Yeah,
and
it's incredible.
He built that up like that. That was like talking about, I don't want to take the stunner, I don't want to take this or whatever, like wrestling of old. That is important. He did that in interviews. So when
good, man.
when that moment came, that was actually the thing that gave me the 3 count, that put it as a 3 count. It wasn't just the match in general. It was when I remember feeling when that dive came through the ropes, I was like, wow, I was anticipating the anticipation behind that because of the history now he's given me, that CM Punk has given me about him not wanting to take that dive. I'm like, yes,
man,
that's wrestling. That there. So
look, again, I got to go back to this is bigger. And I think Punk drew the comparison in the media scrum about Hogan, Hall, and Nash, and saying that was a pivotal moment in wrestling, and how this one maybe supersedes it, where we have Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, one of the biggest crazy moments of Adam Cole. Say what you will, he's another cult of personality that can also work and tell a great story. And you have this new promotion where you've got Dean Malenko, Arn Anderson, Dustin Rhodes, Jim Ross. Punk even said, he was like, I can go around the entire locker room and say, hey, what do you think of this, to people like Jim Ross, to people like Tony Schiavone, to Arn Anderson, to Dean Malenko, to Dustin Rhodes. I can go ask them their thoughts, and we can talk about this, and we can flush out ideas. It's such a there's a lot of news about the variants these days, right? And plucking and pulling from different immune systems and gathering a different strain and a different formation to kind of figure out how to best multiply. That's the whole point of anything in life, is to multiply. This is the best chance that we have for the wrestling industry to multiply. And I think the stronger strains of professional wrestling that are in AEW right now are those that are going to supersede everything else. Stuff probably you don't like. A lot of the other fans, it's not commercially accepted, right? If you showed the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks match to somebody that had never watched wrestling before, they'd be like, okay. But if you showed my 3 count, which was Kenny Omega and Christian, and the entire story arc from start to the close of the show, if wrestling is done really well, everybody loves it.
Right. That's what Daniel Bryan said.
That's exactly what Daniel Bryan said. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Great wrestling. You can show it to anybody and they'll enjoy it.
Right.
I agree. It's just a matter of what great wrestling is. That's really what it is. And I still don't think Kenny Omega is great wrestling.
Hey man, so your 3 count was Punk and Darby.
Yes, that is great wrestling.
It was great wrestling. I still, just because of everything that happened in the Kenny Omega Christian Cage match from beginning to end, to me, that deserved the 3 count of the entire show. Just because we have set up so much. Even the Young Bucks coming out with ice packs, they're still dressed like douchebags, but they're limping and they're doing everything they can to get to the ring. And the beatdown, the Luchasaurus and Jurassic Express and Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt, they all come out there. They're still getting beat up. And then Kenny Omega goes to send the folks home happy. And then Adam Cole comes out And everybody had already started doing the yes chant. But when Adam Cole came out, to me, that was just something like I was not expecting that at all.
Sure. Yeah.
I
I
did
expecting
not
that,
see that happening.
which is why I got my kick out.
Right. But just to hear Flight of the Valkyries,
Yeah.
then go into a strong, man, the strongest beat. Boom, 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 boom. Dude, I think the artist's name is Elliot something. That's like that's an actual song. They got the lyrics cut out of it.
Yeah.
And that's Daniel Bryan's entrance music. Bryan Danielson's entrance music. Ugh. Unreal. I had such a blast. Again, it was at the level of, Mickey James' speech. It was at the level of Ric Flair's speech. It was at the level of Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. It was at the level of CM Punk. It was at the level of Rock and Hogan. In my opinion, it was at that level of seeing Bryan Danielson come out, to see CM Punk come out. And more of those, oh my God, holy shit moments have been happening in AEW recently.
Okay.
Where do they go from here is the $1 million, $1 billion question.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here?
Yeah. This is the thing. This is what I was trying. I wanted to say, and I was hoping that you'd agree with me. Yes, they're doing good stuff and they're getting there, and a lot of it's fun and it's entertaining. Absolutely. Not all of it's everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
But I just wish that fans, and sometimes including yourself, would just enjoy it without pretending it's something it isn't. These, at the end of the day, these are still wrestlers. All wrestlers have egos. When CM Punk says stuff like, "This is bigger than Nash and Hall going to WCW," again, fucking bullshit, dude. The ratings that drew in, those guys were the biggest stars on the planet.
Yep.
You can walk into a mall and shout Daniel Bryan, and
here we go.
Absolutely, and no one would know who you're talking about. That's not sure. Everything you said about the dynamic backstage changing, but what does the average person give a shit about that?
Okay, the ratings and all that, sure, needle mover, great, legitimate needle mover. I'm with you in that argument, comparing how much celebrity and how much attention globally was focused on professional wrestling towards the mainstream public. Yes, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll give you that all day. Scott Hall jumping the barricade, getting in the ring. You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. Kevin Nash coming in, Hulk Hogan turning heel. I get you.
Yeah.
Right? Huge rating numbers. However, in my opinion, as far as the landscape of professional wrestling, not global success, not any of that. I'm just talking about as far as landscape of professional wrestling goes. We're looking at something that I think rivals the NWO. It rivals it. We're not there yet. We've still got a ways to go. But CM Punk, who's not the world's greatest wrestler, he's not the greatest wrestling mind. He's not at all. He's nowhere near the level of Hulk Hogan in 96.
Yeah.
He's nowhere near the level of Scott Hall or Kevin Nash in 96 as far as being a talent. He's just what his theme music is. He's a cult of personality.
Yeah.
To know that cult of personality is back in the ring. Look, we talked about this privately. His last wrestling match in WWE was against Billy fucking Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful. And then Kane comes out and says, "You're going to be in the Royal Rumble." It was awful.
Yeah.
But that's because WWE is awful. It's boring.
But
nothing you like.
We also have to remember that despite what a lot of AEW fans want to believe, the only reason we all know who CM Punk is because of that company. He was not huge, some huge megastar in Ring of Honor. Please give me
no.
Well,
I think him saying the whole, you're talking about the whole reference to professional wrestling. The last time I was in professional wrestling was Ring of Honor.
I'm talking about everything in general, like anything. His whole comeback. It's really important to know that to keep in mind that the whole reason people loved CM Punk was because of his rebellious nature, not because of this. I love everybody. I'm having such a great time. That eventually that's going to get really old. And
I think it has to. I'm with you. I think it just has to happen in the interim.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of like give the people what they want. I'm waiting. I wish he would have hit Sting.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I like at the end of the match, and then we see an angle with CM Punk and Sting. I'd love that.
yeah.
But at the same time, I am trusting that somebody like CM Punk, who's been overly critical, it's like put up or shut up at this point with him.
Right.
If he cannot, again, I just got to say, time will tell. You know,
I know.
we're there. We're absolutely there. To me, that's why it makes it bigger, if not rival 96 professional wrestling. So that, again, I know eyeballs and the amount of you could stand in a mall and yell, hey, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and a couple people would probably give you the Too Sweet gimmick, right? Think about this. How many channels on TV were there in 96? You had about 40 or 50, right? So when we talk about ratings, motherfucker, there wasn't anything else to watch. We didn't have YouTube, right?
Sure.
We didn't have Sling. We didn't have Dish. We had some satellite TV, but it wasn't like the hundreds upon hundreds of channels that you have. You didn't have a cell phone. You couldn't watch some motherfucker play a video game on Twitch.
I know.
So there's all this stuff that's completely different culturally. So being ratings in 96 compared to professional wrestling in 2021, you can't do that. There's way too many options for content and entertainment than there were in 1996.
I agree. You can't.
Okay.
Which is why I can't stand it when people do. You can't compare. So when you're saying stuff, when people say stuff like this supersedes the impact of the inception of NWO and the invasion of WCW by Hall and Nash, it makes me laugh because I'm like, dude, you can enjoy the show without trying to make it some groundbreaking, like amazing, like this has never been done before thing. I'm like, no, it's like it's a wrestling show. Like
it's history repeating itself.
Yeah.
And I think the people that are saying that, I'm also with you. Like, no, chill. Like but it is something that is changing the landscape of professional wrestling. Vince hasn't had competition since 1996 when all of that first started.
Yeah.
He does now. You can't say that Vince isn't looking, or not Vince personally, because he's out of touch. We've figured that out, right? So anytime I say Vince, I'm really referring to the WWE.
Yeah.
But we now know that WWE does have a clear, defined level of competition. It's not TNA with a stupid fucking name, which I think that was the thing that we can talk all day about. Why didn't TNA succeed? It's because it was called TNA. I never gave a fuck to watch that because I was like, I don't want anybody to know that I watched something that's referred to tits and ass. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I agree.
It was on a channel I didn't have, yada yada. It's just we can go on for days, but yeah. Unreal. Good times, great country kicks 96. Anything else we want to
we need it.
Yes,
I think
we do.
We need an alternative. We need something else.
Yeah.
This conversation over and over about how competition again, unless WWE views it as competition, it isn't, because they're a completely different animal. They don't even want to be wrestling. I think for us, we're all territorial by default. Yeah.
Because we were trained to be that way.
Tribalism.
Tribalism. Well, of course, yeah. We're trained to be like, no. I stand for this,
Right.
and if you don't, then get the fuck out, right?
Yeah.
We're all trained to be that way. However, in this instance, I'm looking at a dying industry that I love, and I will forever be tethered to professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And I see a visionary, someone that used to write hit after hit after hit. We've killed the greatest hits albums to death. We've had way too many greatest hits with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for you guys to start putting out some really good singles. We have this band that figured out, hey, we found the producer, and we've got some of the best players that were around and have been around recently for other bands. We've put together a little bit of a super group. We're still figuring out the orchestra pit. We're still figuring out the label.
Yeah.
We're still figuring out how to make this work. But the album art looks great.
Right. Yeah.
And the first few singles, they've done okay. They've done okay. And we now know that, this is what you guys want. You want the second single. You don't like the first single. Third single is a little bit iffy, but you love the second single. We're going to start doing a bunch of singles that are like number 2.
Yeah. And
WWE is just going, we're playing the hits, man. If you want the hits,
totally,
we're going to play the hits. We're probably going to add a couple of instruments here and there, but that's kind of all. That's our speed, man. We're focused on running a tour in the UK. We're focused on running a tour in Saskatchewan. We're not worried about making new hits
because they haven't needed to. Though one could argue that, to me, long term, if we're talking long term storytelling, they have made a star out of Roman Reigns, despite everyone's pushback for a long time. So they're just not doing it at a rate that they used to. But they haven't had a reason to.
They haven't had a reason to, and I think that they've also relied way too much on their back catalog.
Yeah, because they haven't had a reason to. They haven't had a reason to not do that. Because they didn't have an AEW injecting like new life into the wrestling industry, and that is what I will agree with. If someone says that to me, I agree with that all day long. AEW has injected new life into the wrestling business. Yes. It
may not be a great life.
Well, we don't know yet. We absolutely don't know, but they have.
God,
and that I am absolutely 100% in agreement with. I will not argue that in whatever that looks like. I'm just really sick of the arguing over, this is the best thing that's ever happened in wrestling ever.
Well, listen, people see the interaction that somebody like Dave Meltzer gets off of an opinion, and they want that same kind of reaction.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody wants to kind of have that final say. We do. Fuck.
Yeah.
Between you and me, we both want to have that final say in the conversation, because it's like, when you watch nothing but talking heads all day, everything is a talking head.
Yeah.
This is two talking heads, right?
True. Yeah.
There's some sort of validity to go like, hey, my thoughts matter. Apparently, we all need to be reminded everybody's thoughts matters. It's are you listening?
Yeah.
Right? For me, I kind of thought today was going to be a shit show between you and I, between you going, that's stupid. And I'm like, no, it's great because of this. You're like, no, it wasn't that way.
No.
Because you and I both have such a strong friendship. We're able to listen to each other.
Right.
And I'm able to understand just by talking it out how you feel. Where we have 140 characters, I know it's more than that now, folks. It's the last time I was on Twitter, so suck it. When you have 140 characters or a picture or a slideshow or a 30-second video, you cannot, in reality, put your feelings out there that someone can then go, oh, okay, great. That's the fault of social media.
Yeah.
That's the unintended consequence of talking heads and shit being way too overhyped for you to even understand someone's opinion, because there's no fucking way that you can understand that.
Yep.
I'm 36 years old. You cannot, in 2 paragraphs, understand 36 years of my opinion.
Right.
And who gives a fuck? Why do you even care? Live your own fucking life. You know what I mean? So it's at that point, it's just kind of like, I thought All Out was a great show.
No, hey, you know what? I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoyed it. There were moments that I didn't enjoy, but hell, that has been every wrestling pay-per-view for the last 10 years. There were moments that I didn't enjoy at all, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. This was the first pay-per-view from AEW that, for the most part, I enjoyed. I'm just not ever going to be like JR going out there. That was the most complete pay-per-view I've ever, complete card I've ever called in my career. Like, seriously, dude, you just said that. You can't take that back.
Yep. Well, I mean, before we even, like, if we want to look at The Rock and Steve Austin, right? Mm-hmm. We had to get through Trish Stratus and Victoria.
Okay.
Right? There were, even on giant cards, we still had to get through Golga and Al Snow. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not always going to be everything you've ever wanted. It's not, you're not edging yourself the entire show. There's going to be something that you're like, oh yeah, it's not that. It's not that. But we're just so used to a microwave now, where it's just like, oh, that's everything I wanted. This is so satisfying. It's like, nah, man, you're going to hit a couple potholes in your brand new, Bentley. What would you rate this as? Probably
an 8.
If you had to, what? 8
out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'd live that too. Yeah, I'd live it 8 out of 10. And you and I both. I'm way more of an AEW person than you are,
and you're giving it an 8 as well.
I'm giving it an 8 because it's still too goddamn long for me.
Yeah,
it's just like some of that stuff. Just the QT Big Show thing. Nobody needed to see that. Mm-hmm. No one was asking for that.
That was
put that on Elevation.
Yeah, exactly. This shouldn't have been on this.
Yeah,
card. Yeah.
And I personally, I don't have positive feelings about Chris Jericho, even though I'm sure in real life he's probably a great guy. I don't care for him. Mm-hmm. He's not the type of performer he used to be, and I would much rather him legitimately retire and know when your story arc is complete. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did great at reinventing yourself, but the way that happened was you went to a different promotion. You didn't do anything different. You still sucked. You just put on makeup and looked like Sting and carried a bat and had spikes on your leather jacket that your wife picked out. Like, no one cares.
Yeah. We agree there for sure.
Well, let's agree to end this show. Anything you want to say in closing?
No, not really.
Me neither, folks. If you listened this long, thank you so much. Do us a favor, rate and review our show. Follow us on social media, or don't. Live your life. I'm Isaac Riston, Heath Lee House, and it's over. Bye.